many people don't know that these energy pathogens exist and are therefore oblivious of the numerous ways in which they can affect us. And, just as happened to our ancestors, our ignorance of the existence of these pathogens and our failure to protect ourselves from them enables them to contaminate us and seriously compromise our well-being. Having healed thousands of people over the past 2 decades, I've discovered that exposure to such energy toxicity is one of the main ways in which we sabotage our wellness. Later in the book, we'll explore energy toxicity and I'll describe my concept behind energy pathogens. The microscopic universe. But right now, we're going to take a closer look at how ignorance of the unseen world of germs negatively affected our not-so-distant ancestors. Afterwards, I'll explain how our modern society, which is sophisticated in so many ways, is making the same mistakes about another invisible realm. Actually, perhaps these shouldn't be classified as mistakes, but instead as a stage in human evolution from which, thanks to our more advanced understanding of the world and ourselves, we can move to another level. Even just a few centuries ago, people were unaware of the microbial ecosystem that lives around us, on our skin and inside our bodies. They couldn't see all those hundreds of trillions of bacteria, viruses, and other organisms, so they didn't know they were there. This meant that no one, not even those in the medical profession, had a clue about the vital role that hygiene plays in preventing the spread of disease-causing pathogens. People took medicine to rid themselves of an illness, but then they contract that illness once more. The problem was that they didn't know how they'd become unwell in the first place, so they had no idea how to prevent it from happening again. It wasn't until 1665 that English scientist Robert Hooke used a microscope to observe the tiniest, previously hidden details of the natural world, and discovered the first known microbes, including molds. And it was only in 1675 that Dutchman Antony van Leeuwenhoek, using a microscope that he'd made himself, discovered the existence of bacteria. But even after these momentous scientific breakthroughs, the vast majority of the population remained in blissful ignorance of the existence of germs and the harmful effects they can have. As a result, they were caught up in that endless cycle of disease and cure I mentioned earlier. A doctor might administer the best medicine of the day, which from our perspective isn't saying much, to treat a violent stomach upset, but it would almost certainly return because if the patient recovered, they'd continue eating with dirty hands or consuming rotting food. They'd be back to square one. And so it went on. Higher life versus lower life. By the time the 19th century arrived, people were a lot more clued up about the damage that biological pathogens could wreak on the human body. Scientists had acquired a far greater understanding of microbes and their impact on human health. These microbes were called house diseases and insidious foes, and were classified as the lower life. Humans, on the other hand, were the higher life. A battle ensued between the two. Epidemics of cholera and other infectious diseases were rife throughout the 19th century, and people were desperate to protect themselves. It's hard to imagine that a little more than 150 years ago, the medical profession believed in the miasmatic theory, which held that most disease was caused by inhaling foul smells, or bad air, arising from decayed organic matter. Until fairly recently, hospital architecture was heavily influenced by miasmatic theory, and buildings were designed to allow in as much fresh, clean air as possible. Public health campaigns, targeted mostly at housewives, emphasized the importance of disease prevention through cleaning. At first, though, this was about eradicating bad smells from the home rather than killing germs. Domestic hygiene became the driving force of healthy living and a symbol of high social status. Interestingly, in the Victorian era in Britain, personal hygiene regained its connection with morality. While in previous centuries, people had thought it morally dubious to give oneself a good scrub in the bath, now it was declared morally dubious not to.